Listen to my laptop
Welcome
taking off.
to the third Atreo Podcast. I am thy Pirate King, joined as always with Marty Boy. And the first thing that we would like to talk about today is the PTR changes that are they've been changing a lot of stuff for the PTR recently. So I guess the big thing is that Lucio's wall leap boost is going back to its normal 2.5 milliseconds, like the normal it was when you would jump off a wall. But everything else is keeping the same, which is I love it. I think it's just making Lucio even more powerful, right?
It is a very good change back. I really like how Blizzard instantly responded to the community feedback. Like there was quite a big outrage about these quotation mark nerfs to Lucio. Uh, and since they were already saying in the patch notes even, these are changes we want to just do as part of the rework of Lucio's wall riding, they weren't really intending it to be a nerf. And due to this big outcry, they're like, okay, we'll change it back. And they'll just really keep an eye on it if it's gonna work out and not gonna be crazily overpowered with the new way of wall riding.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's a good step forward. I think they're listening to the community. But again, I don't know if it's going to be overpowered or if it's not. It obviously was not overpowered before Lucio got all these changes. But now that he has all of these changes, well, maybe it's a little overpowered because now he can basically wall ride infinitely everywhere.
It's become easy.
Yeah,
Like
it's
the
become very easy.
cooldown for to activate like his new wall riding power, I don't know how you want to call it, to like make him easily go around the corners while holding one button is 0.3 seconds.
Hmm.
So like you can do it based off a tree, but if you just hit a wall, basically any wall will be good enough to activate the ability
Yeah, absolutely.
already. So unless you're like being like super fast Lucio and doing like your full out roll out and you just tap those walls, you won't notice it. But like the moment you stick longer to the wall, you will instantly get that easy wall riding going, and then it becomes easy to jump off again and get your bigger speed boost.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think it's interesting that you mentioned the 0.3 seconds for to start wall riding. They originally also had the option that you could change that to like point 0.2 or point 0.1 or point. I think it went up to point 0.5
Yeah,
seconds that you could do. They've recently also taken this out, and apparently this actually wasn't even supposed to be in that PTR change. It was sort of like a little bit of a mistake. I hope they bring it back. I think that options are always nice to have as long as those options are not overpowered.
I feel like it was really just something left over from them doing testing. They
Yeah.
just gave themselves quickly the ability to move it around in game to just keep testing with it, like to see what feels good, to see, okay, if we put it to this amount of time, which walls can we use, which walls can't we use. I don't think they want you to have the ability to change this because that makes it like, give me a very good reason why I wouldn't put it to the lowest amount.
I mean, yeah.
Like,
You mean
there's
yeah.
no reason to put it to 0.3 if you can put it to 0.05.
Hmm.
Like, no reason. So then it would just be like one of those things you put it on. It's the same like with backwards wall riding. It's off by default, but there's not much reason to actually keep it off. Everyone
Yeah.
just wants it on.
Yeah. Of
So you
course.
put it on and then you leave that setting for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I think it's I do still think, even though I agree with you that like why wouldn't you just do these things? I still like the options just in case. Maybe there is a reason that we're not thinking of why you would. I mean, for example,
Yeah.
Diva, you used to not be able to hold shift to make her fly, right? You actually had to toggle it, and they fixed it, and everyone uses that now. Or with Mercy, how some people
Yeah, but that actually has like a big use. The difference between having to hold to constantly use your ability or to toggle. That's like really a player preference, and also like it has good impact on your game. Like if you just want to do like a very quick little fly, then being able to press the button, release it, and instantly be done with flying, or press release
Mhm.
to be done with flying is like a big difference.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. But I guess moving on in the PTR patch notes, so they also have increased the height of Genji's deflect back to what it was. And they did say that, as you can see in the patch notes, that the overall size is still smaller than it originally was, which is, I would say, a good thing. But I do think this is also I think this is a good change, making it higher, because I'm sure everyone has seen the videos of Genji deflecting and getting headshot by a Widow, and I think that's hilarious. But obviously, that's not a good thing for the game.
Like, I don't get. That's one of the important things. You want to be able to deflect a headshot. How can you let like this go through playtesting?
Right? Yeah. No. Absolutely.
These are like the moments you feel like they just do the change because they think it's needed and just never test it themselves and just let us bug fix it,
Yeah,
which is perfectly fine. That's why the PTR is there, of course. But it's like, okay, we find it for you. Don't worry, Blizzard. We got your back.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. So this is definitely a good change. I would say like almost a bug. It's not a bug fix, but I would almost equate it to a bug fix for Genji, because this is not how it was intended to be until now. Also, a third thing that they did, they've changed Hanzo's longeability, and by change it, I mean sort of fixed how it interacted when you're trying to climb the wall. There were some issues where if you tried to climb the wall, it would actually use up your lungeability, like if you jump first. But now apparently they've kind of fixed that, which again, I think this is a good change. I mean, you don't. I think no one wants to have their ability be used up when you.
That would be very annoying.
Yeah, no.
The one thing I do still like that I have kept that in, because first I was thinking this was a bug, is the fact that when you wall climb and then use your leap ability, it doesn't stop you from wall climbing again. It's not like when you double jump. Yeah, it's not like Genji. So you can wall climb, double jump, but then you can't wall climb until you hit the ground. With
which
the new Hanzo,
also was a change, by the way. You used to be able to
yeah,
do
that was an intentional change,
yeah.
and I was like assuming logically they would keep that same the same style, but they haven't, and now they've actually looked at it and they haven't changed it yet. So I'm assuming
so you can
that this is intended.
So
you can chain it.
You can climb a wall, leap, and then climb a wall again.
Yes.
Oh, that's. I feel like I can't think of anything off the top of my head where that could be abused, but I'm sure there are ways to abuse that. So I'm sure they'll.
Well, you can. It's 4 seconds to cooldown, right?
I believe so.
Yeah. Okay. Then if you have like a high enough area with two walls close together, you can infinitely be like on the wall, going up and down, up and down, up and down.
That's
basically.
True, yeah, that's true. So I'm sure they'll change it, because if they're looking at it like Genji, then I mean.
It would be logical to change it, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. So I guess moving on for the next thing that we want to talk about is obviously season 9 is ending very soon. We will be getting season 10 on April 30th at 5 p.m. PT time, and also Tuesday, May 1st at 12 o'clock UTC, if those are your times. But I have them up on the screen. Obviously, you get your season 9 rewards if you finish your placement matches. I'm excited and terrified for season 10. I'm excited because Brigitta's new. I'm also terrified because Brigitta's new.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting meta. Like we said on the previous podcast, the first week is just going to be people trying to find out how to play against and how to play with. Well, maybe not as much to play with, like on a mechanical level, but more to play with as on a team. Since it's only been in quick play, there hasn't been as much team play for every single player available, unless you're on a team and you try Brigitte with your team. So people that play Brigitte in quick play now need to get adapted to playing her in competitive and actually play with your team a bit more.
Yeah, no,
that's on both sides going to be an adjustment period.
Yeah, definitely. I've been in the mindset where I'm kind of scared, because I think there is a potential for Brigitte to be overpowered and need nerfs and things like that. But I'm also in the mindset where I don't think that she's going to be as horrible as people think she's going to be. I think that you can still deal with her. You just have to know how to deal with her. And I think I talked about that a bit on the last podcast, where it's going to be a bit of a change, because new heroes always sort of change the meta at least a little bit. So I think once we get used to her, we'll start getting back into it. Just like Moira, or just like Ana, or just like Sombra, or Doomfist, you know. So but yeah, but moving on.
The one thing I'm scared of before we move in is the same thing with Moira. It's a more DPS-y more not brain dead holding one button down healer. So more DPS players might just randomly be like, okay, I'm just gonna play Brigitte. Or people that aren't actually a healer main are gonna play more Brigitte. So you get more often those compositions where you're just stuck with all kinds of healer players. But also you'll be stuck again with people that play a healer. The team assumes they're gonna heal, but in the end they just turn out to be running around DPSing everything.
Yeah,
So
no,
that's going to be an interesting situation again.
yeah, I'm really hoping that my healers are not going to be running around just doing damage. Like, imagine. I guess to just add a little bit to it as well before we move on. Imagine if a Mercy just had her gun out the entire game.
Yeah.
No one would like that.
Oh.
I guess with Brigitte, it's slightly different because she actually has to do damage to heal. But like, imagine if she's just like out there by herself. Just like
if her positioning isn't right, she will do nothing with that healing that she's still putting out while doing the damage.
Exactly, yeah. But yeah, moving on from that though. So we have some statistics for Widowmaker v Widowmaker duels in Overwatch for the Overwatch League. There is stuff for Overwatch Stage 1, Stage 2, and Stage 3 that sort of combine it, but we're going to be focusing on the Stage 3 statistics that we see here. And I think the big thing that I noticed at least is Linkser is at the bottom. He's in 10th place.
Yeah.
And
he's had a rough stage though.
Yeah.
That's very true. Like if you compare it quickly to the full stage statistics, his stats are like 50% better on the KD ratio. So based from what we have seen him during this stage, he's not been playing as well. He has not been doing so well in the Widow v Widows. So that's like a good thing, in a way. That it isn't his normal statistics.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it's interesting though because Linkser was the Widow dueler, the Widow 1v1er in the league for the longest time. Everyone considered him the counter Widow, right? Like, he wasn't necessarily the best overall Widow, but he was considered to be the Widow that could kill other Widows consistently. And now we're not really seeing that. I mean, look at Fleta. Fleta's at the top here, right? For Stage 3, he's killing more Widows. He's dying less to Widows. He's doing fantastic. I mean, also Sabiolbi's Seiya player has been doing absolutely fantastic. By the way, I think we should
for like a new addition to the league, just performing already with a 3 KD versus Widows is very good.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
That's a good coming new player.
I also think another one to point out is that so the only two players that have a below 1 ratio for the Widow v Widows is Birdring and Linkser, and I would argue that Birdring has also not been performing as well, not just on Widowmaker but just in general.
In general, yeah, Birdring has had a hard time.
Yeah, so I think Linkser and Birdring definitely need to step up their game a bit. I would say especially Linkser, because I think Linkser sort of almost has like a title to defend. Like he's been called like
basically.
I think he has more of a reason to step up his game a bit, and I hope he does. I love, as I'm sure the podcast viewers know, we love the Houston Outlaws, Wardy Boy and myself. So I really hope that that Linkser can pull it back.
What I'm also very interested in the fact that Pine, Big Boss Pine, not so big apparently. Like, it's a 50-50 basically if he kills the Widow or he gets killed by the Widow.
I would almost say Libero is better, like overall as a Widow, or just in general. Like I think Libero is.
Yeah, it's like it's nice to see that recently NYXL has been playing Pine more on just Ilios. But like on Ilios, they put him on Widow. Like on Ruins, they put him on Widow. They put him in the back, and he dominated. There are like many clips to find where he just dominated the whole team and just won them Ruins because like they're permanently fighting 5v or 5v6 and with denied areas because Widow sidelines. But apparently, those statistics don't come back in this overall statistic.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I would like to point out too that, like, I mean, even though we're talking sort of down about some of these players, I mean, they're still in the top 10 though. Which is,
of course, yeah.
These are the best Widow v Widow players in the world right now, in Overwatch League.
Yeah.
And I think another interesting to want to point out is Soon. Soon's in 7th place right now for the Widow 1v1. I think that's pretty impressive for Soon, at least.
Yeah, Sun has been doing good on it,
I'm
basically.
also surprised that Carpe is only in 8th. Maybe it's just because he's just not that great against Widow 1v1s, but whenever I see him play Widow, he just pops off, like he just kills everything, He's a great player.
Yeah, I think we just can derive from that he just kills everything else that isn't the Widow, basically. He is like, I don't give a fuck. I don't want to fight you,
Winston,
Widow. I'll
you
just
deal
kill
with
your team.
Widowmaker, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that doesn't matter. What can a Widow do when her whole team is dead? Well, she
Right.
just kills you easily.
Exactly. It doesn't matter if Carpe dies to the other Widow, as long as he's killed 3 other people on the enemy team, it's fine. But yeah.
Basically.
But yeah.
The one pointing thing about like the bigger statistic is the amount that Linkser has played Widow v Widows.
He plays it a lot. Yeah.
He has 109 final blows versus Widowmakers.
Yeah.
Like, that's a lot. Like, especially compared to the other players. Like, the second follow-up is 90 from Carpe.
Yeah,
and then it already goes down to the 70s with Fleta.
Yeah, we could also definitely look at those. Like, I mean, although the statistics are here, we have to look at the numbers where those statistics are coming from. Linkser is battling Widows more often than anyone else in the league, or at least in the top 10. And because of that, I mean, it's gonna be a bit skewed, right? He's gonna win a lot, but he's also gonna lose a lot. So it's gonna be a bit there. I mean, we also have to look at stamina, right? I mean, Linkser is playing. I think Houston plays Linkser in basically every game, or at least almost every game. I mean, that has to be tiring. I mean,
Oh no, for sure.
Like, imagine if you just have to, like, every single stage, or at least so far, like, I'm sure he's gonna do it for season 2 also. He's just playing every single game, every single map. That's tiring. I mean, Widowmaker is one of the hardest characters in the game, and he has to be consistent on that and play at a high level every single game. But to also be fair, I mean, he is a professional now. Like, he's gonna have to do that. I mean, other players are having to play a lot as well. Like, so. But yeah, I guess moving on from those statistics, though, we have some interesting Zenyatta statistics.
Yeah, those are nice.
Yeah, definitely. I guess we should look at how Philadelphia, New York, and Gladiators have the most playtime, like, significantly than any other team for these statistics. Which I think,
the slight exception, of course, that there are also like double Soul player and double Spitfire player in there. So you need to keep in mind that those times you should count in double. So those might seem very low, but they are actually combined higher. With in general playing Zen, of course.
Yeah,
just
that's
difference
fair.
Between who plays it.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. But I think it's also interesting to point out that Ryu Jaehong, he has the quickest ultimate gain in the league.
Yeah.
Which is very fascinating. I think that's amazing. I mean, to be fair, it's not significantly more than, I would say, like the top 5, like Jay Jonak being in 5th place with a 95.69 seconds to charge and all. That's only, what is that? That's 7 seconds, roughly 7 seconds less. But
7 seconds is.
It makes a difference. Yeah.
The reason why it makes a difference in my mind mostly is the difference between number 1 and 2, and then the difference between number 2 and 5. 1 and 2 is 4 seconds difference, and 2 and 5 is 3 seconds difference, and that's rounding up nicely.
Yeah.
So there's still quite almost a double difference. We're getting close to double the difference there. So there it makes it somewhat of a relevant statistic to me that he does kind of charge quickly compared to the others.
We also have to point out, though, that he is playing less Zenyatta overall as well. Yeah. So maybe that has a little factor. Maybe the few games that he's playing Zenyatta on, he just happens to be charging it faster. And then Jay Jonak, his is a bit skewed because he's playing so many more games as Zenyatta.
Yeah, he doesn't play anything else. Hey, I'm Zenyatta. Welcome. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm Jay Jonak. I'm good at this game.
Yeah. The one interesting person at the very low spectrum, like if we're looking at the lower end of the spectrum, okay, free feel, of course. If you're on a less well-performing team, you're gonna be dead more. It's gonna up your times with charging, of course. That's logical. Like Zuppa also low,
I guess.
but
I guess
Karif
Mhm.
is interesting there, being at 105 seconds to charge up his ultimate, while Valiant has been doing very well. Hasn't really been getting that much stomped that he's permanently dead. Added to those statistics are the statistics of Karif specifically. He has the lowest first deaths of any Zenyatta in the Overwatch League currently, and the lowest death per 10 minutes.
He plays very
So,
defensively here.
yeah, that's the one thing you can get from Karif here. Those basically 7 seconds between him being very low in the spectrum and being high in the spectrum is probably the difference between him being dead and him being alive. And him just playing very defensively.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like throughout the entire stage 3, he still maintains the second best KD. Of course, Jay Jonak is first. Jonak gets all the kills. We know that. He's always been first and will always be first.
To be fair,
With
though,
Karif,
Jonak also gets pocketed a lot by his Mercy player.
Very much.
I mean, like
Yeah.
they rely on Jay Jonak a lot, and I mean, to
Yeah.
be fair, I mean he's an amazing Zen, but I mean also some of that Mercy heal isn't going to some of the DPS or some of the tanks maybe, so maybe that's why Jay Jonak is getting so much done. But again, to be fair to Jay Jonak, again, he is an amazing player. So
Adding to the Jay Jonak pocket factor is that he's been the most resurrected player of his team. In the current standings, there have been 110 reses on NYXL, and 36 of those reses has been Jay Jonak.
Oh wow!
Basically, whenever he dies, he will get rest.
Yeah.
Just doesn't matter.
Basically,
you die?
Basically,
rest.
if he asks for a resurrection, they're going to res him even
Yeah.
if it costs their life.
But like, it's very interesting to see that like Karif does it slower, but still has like one of the best KD ratios, excepting Jay Jonak, and is dying the least of everyone.
Well, that's probably
So that was
why
nice.
that's probably one of the reasons he's building it maybe a little slower too, because if he's not dying as much, it probably means that he's hiding a bit more, he's playing more protective, or he's protecting himself more, he's playing, as we mentioned, defensively
Most likely,
more.
yeah.
He's not being a Jay Jonak. He's not literally looking at an ulting enemy Genji and shooting at them, you know? So,
Yeah.
and he's not doing that with Winston's, he's not doing that with other against other players as well, which is keeping him alive more, but also is going to charge his ultimate slower. Now, I guess the question here is that should he be playing a bit more aggressive? Because if he's this good at keeping himself alive and this good at, like, you know, just staying alive and playing defensively, if he played a bit more aggressively, do you think that he could maybe sort of combine these traits to make him even better than Jay Jonak?
If there wouldn't be the statistic that he has been the second best on KD, then I would say yes, because then he is favoring the very, very safe versus the slightly more kills, slightly more damage, slightly more helping the team in that department. But since he's been also getting the kills, so he's actually still in range to be effective with his hits, I feel like he is playing it well. Like there can always be a slight improvement. Maybe you can get like on average 1 second down of the time. But I feel like, yeah, it's a bit slower. But that's not a bad thing in this situation.
And it is working for LA Valiant, as we've seen. I mean, they have other aggressive players on their team, I think. So he can sort of play more defensively, which is good.
Like adding to the Jaehong out of balance statistic is the second stat. The ult's used out of team fights. And I really feel that helps him in his charge time. Because the moment he gets it, he just uses it. Even though the team fight hasn't really started yet, he can have used it already. So I feel like seeing that second statistic makes his time more reasonable, more in line with the others.
I've even heard some arguments saying that Jay Jonak's ultimate usage is one of the worst in the league. That he actually doesn't really know how to use his ultimate properly.
Yeah, he
I
just
feel,
presses Q.
yeah, he basically just
Just no
uses it.
wow.
He almost uses it
Yeah.
for himself, like almost every time. Like a lot of times when I see him with an ultimate when I'm watching, it's like he's getting jumped and then he uses it, and that's not necessarily a bad way to use an ultimate. But sometimes it's just like, Jay Jonak, did you really have to
Did you
use
have
it?
to?
You know, like I mean. But
You
again,
can always say he kept the DPS alive himself.
that's fair. That's fair. Yeah. I think though that Jay Jonak, sometimes it does feel like he's more of a playing like a DPS than playing like a support. But to be fair, also it is working obviously for New York Excelsior. So
New York is winning. So
yeah, why change what works? You know.
One slight side note on the statistics: a team fight is here considered when a first kill is made.
Mm-hmm.
So if Jaehong always get dove because he's charging up those ults fast, so he must be having a good impact on the game. That might explain why, like, if he's the primary focus target, he will be the first one to be low and forced to use his ultimate to keep himself alive and the rest of the team subsequently. So those things will change the stats a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess one more thing I wanted to mention. Well, I guess two actually. One of them is Raucus is obviously in second place for time to charge ultimate, which makes me very happy as an Outlaws fans. And I think it also shows that Raucus is a good Zenyatta player. Like he's very good, I think. But again, he also does have he's using ultimates a lot out of team fights, which might again I think that you can look at it from multiple angles. Like
of course.
Yeah, like with Jay Jonak, like maybe he's using it, keep himself alive, reposition himself, then start killing things again. Maybe Raucus is doing the same thing. Or I mean, you could also look at the negative side. Maybe they are just using these out of team fights when they don't need to be. But Outlaws also has a very high Zenyatta playtime, and I think Raucus loves Zenyatta. It's probably I would say it's probably one of his favorite characters. But Raucus is also a very flexible player as well. But the other point I wanted to make, or player specifically I wanted to look at, was poor free fill. So we talked about Kareev, and you brought up all these interesting statistics about Kareev, which sort of, I guess, balance out this lack of charging ultimates. I don't think those statistics exist for free fill.
No, he's just dead a lot.
Yeah. I mean,
he did it.
I believe some of the casters call him what is it, free throw or free kill or a throw feel or something like that. Mm-hmm. How he's just always dying. Like,
well, like that's the life of a Zenyatta. You're in dive situations. You're always,
of course, but
9 out of 10 times you're the primary target to be dove upon. So, like previously, there have been statistics that just show that like 200 to 300% of the time, the enemy team will dive to Zenyatta because that's just how it goes in Overwatch. It's the best course of action.
So maybe Shanghai's problem is not protecting free fill. Maybe we're giving free fill too much of a headache here. Maybe we're saying like, oh, free fill, you're so bad at this game. But maybe free fill is just as good as Jay Jonak, but his team is just really bad at protecting.
There might be a slight difference in skill between Free Fill and Jay Jonak, but yeah, there's also a difference in team. Yeah. That's always noticeable. No, but like, of course, these are statistics. They don't show you every single situation, and there's simple statistics based on like a few variables. So always take them with a slight grain of salt. Don't go running around and saying like, oh, Ryujung, Raucus, Shells, and Guido are better than Jay Jonak because of charge time.
Yeah.
No. Jay Jonak will still be the best Zenyatta in Overwatch League.
But hey, maybe
that's still a fact.
Maybe the other Zins would be better if they got pocketed constantly by their Mercy.
Nah, that's crazy talk.
All right, but I guess moving on from this statistic, so the Overwatch League Stage 4 map pool has now been announced. Also, they changed the ordering for these maps. So we have Blizzard World, Horizon Lunar Colony, Oasis, Dorado, Kings Row, Hanamura, Lijiang Tower, and Watchpoint Gibraltar. And then now we have Hybrid first, Assault, Control, Escort, and then again, if a fifth map comes along, Control again.
Another Control, yeah.
Yeah. So, what do you think of these new maps, Marty boy? We've seen some of them before.
I'm very surprised Horizon Lunar Colony is in it. Since they are actually reworking the map because they said it's unbalanced versus like defender favored. And I feel it's weird to put an unbalanced map, which you're currently reworking, in the competitive league.
Yeah, it is very strange.
It's a bit.
Do you think,
It might cause some weird games.
do you think maybe they're thinking, oh, maybe it's not as unbalanced as we originally thought?
Yeah, you never know. Like, of course, on Overwatch League, you have probably more unbalanced games than you have in matchmaking in your own competitive game, because like the difference between the Overwatch League teams can be quite large. For example, NYXL playing versus the Shanghai Dragons. Yeah, they might first point hold you, which seems to be defender favored, but then they just steamroll. NYXL will steamroll on the first point attack. So in quick or in competitive play, you have way closer skill ratings. So the statistic might not hold up for Overwatch League, but I find it an interesting decision.
Yeah, no, it's definitely interesting that they're thinking of changing this map, and we even saw the leak last week on our podcast. Yeah, no, I'm surprised by that too. I would argue that they shouldn't put this map in, because we don't have a number or an estimated time for when this new Horizon Lunar Colony is going to even get to the PTR.
Still unknown, yeah.
But so maybe it's really far off. Maybe they're like thinking of this like 6 months or something down the road.
Yeah, no, of course. Like,
and then that's a valid thing to put Horizon Lunar Colony. But if we see, like, if I see a Horizon Lunar Colony map change on the PTR like before this stage is finished, I'm gonna be very surprised that they decide to go for this.
Yeah.
But I guess looking at the other maps, we saw Oasis, for like 5th map for this stage. I like Oasis. I like Lijiang Tower. I really
they're really good maps.
I really like Watchpoint Gibraltar. I think that map has some really cool games because it's so open, it's so big, there's so much high ground, there's so many Widow duels. Like, I think it's very interesting and fun to watch. So I'm excited for that one.
The one reason why I'm not excited about Gibraltar is after second point, like the moment you get first point, the possibility to get the staggers and get the quotation mark free push of second point and the same for third point are quite big. So if you play that tactically well with timing your kills a bit, you can really abuse that. And I feel like you go back to Widow v Widow, which it's cool to watch. I love it when Pine just clicks all the heads. But we're looking at like the highest competitive level of Overwatch, where they have the sickest strats and the best team play, and someone just clicked head.
Yeah.
End of fight. You have lost. Woohoo!
Yeah,
right?
No, Watchpoint Gibraltar is really focused on that Widow duel. You know, so
yep.
I mean, I believe
we don't know if the pros know another way to do it, but in competitive it's heavily Widow focused. In scrimming it's heavily Widow focused.
I mean, to be fair, a lot of this game is heavily Widow focused. I've even talked about maybe Widow needs to be changed again, because she's still so prevalent in this game. She's like, any map where a Widow is viable, you run a Widow maker because she's just so good, you know. But I guess moving on as well, I like King's Row a lot as well. I think King's Row is a very fun map.
King's Row is the best.
So I'm really excited for that one. Dorado, I'm really excited to see some more Dorado. It's been a while, so I like Dorado. I think it's a really cool and interesting map. There are some points where Widow can be played as well. You can do some sneaky back Widow things, or just like getting
but there's like more tactical play with the Widow, I feel like, because there's a lot of flanking routes.
Yeah, it's like, not just getting into a position and being able to see the whole map, you know. It's getting into very specific positions to try and get very specific kills. Yeah,
like you abused like at high wall on the if you're attacking in the far right corner of the map of the first point area, there you have that higher wall that gives you access to like basically around the first capture point area. Like that's a very nice flank, but you always just have the middle area and next to the clock tower. While on Watchpoint Gibraltar, second point, there are four doors, basically in like two scoping areas, and that's wherever you can come from. You can't come from anywhere else. So there's so much less possibility
Yeah, yeah, no,
to like
definitely.
play around the Widow. So it becomes again just a mechanical skill matchup where all your tactics just are based upon please be better at clicking heads, please be better at clicking the heads,
Yeah,
and hey, we won.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, no, definitely.
What's nice to see is Blizzard World again.
Hmm.
Of course, like out of purely out of a Blizzard standpoint,
It'll be a new
you want to
Blizzard World
promote.
too,
Yeah,
right? The new
that's the
changes
main
will,
point.
yeah.
Yeah, they're happy, of course, to promote their new map, but now it's a new one, and that really makes it a lot better. I feel
Oh yeah,
like
no,
in competitive, I've really been enjoying that second stage of that map so much more. Now it isn't like previously; it basically became 2 CP at that
it
point,
was horrible.
where you just came in running in with your supports and being like, "Hey," or with your supports, with your other stall heroes, sit on the point for a few seconds, you die. Oh, the next one comes running in, and the next one, and the next one,
Hmm.
and
Yeah, no,
the attacker
definitely.
spawn was so long.
Yeah, there were so many games as well, I believe, in Overwatch League where they would have actually gotten the second point, where they either would have gotten the second point or gotten the second point faster if it was the way it is in competitive right now. And it always makes me cry because I'm just like, they capped the point, but they didn't cap the point because it's not changed yet, you know.
Yeah,
But yeah, I'm also excited about the Hanamura though as well. I think Hanamura is I think it's a cool map. Obviously, some people don't like 2CP. I think that Hanamura is pretty interesting though. We've been scrimming it a lot. At least my team, we've been kind of at least I've been enjoying it more now that I've been scrimming it more and kind of understand the map better. So
yeah. I'm really happy with this map pool because it's less 100% dive oriented. If you go looking at it, Blizzard World, you can perfectly run that with a static quad tank comp on the first point. Second point, maybe not as much, or third point, but like at least the first point, you can do different things than dive.
yeah,
King's Row,
absolutely.
always been like one of the best maps where you can practically run anything.
Yeah, which is yeah, it's
Basically
awesome.
anything works on King's Row first point.
Kingstar is just such a
Uh,
fantastic map overall. It's so
Horizon
easy.
has been run for tank, has been run with dive. You can do anything. Hanamura, same concepts, run the same ways. Oasis, the university it's called? Yeah.
Yeah, university. Yeah.
University, really the meta of the triple tank with the DPS has developed, but you can still
I think
play
also
the
with
dive.
Oasis, even when you are running dive, a lot of times you see a Pharah mixed in there too, so you get a little bit
Yeah,
of diversity with that as well.
like I really like to see like that high level Pharah v Pharah or pharmacy basically versus pharmacy gameplay. Li Jiang, same with the control center. It has so many options. You're gonna see May picks, you're gonna see Reaper picks.
Control Center is so much fun to watch as well.
Yeah. Gibraltar again, it's a bit like the escort maps are a bit dive focused, in my
Absolutely.
opinion. Even though Dorado, you can run that more with a static comp on the first point, but second and third point of those are both very dive focused.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I think you make a good point that a lot of these maps, they allow teams to play things other than dive at least a decent amount of
Yeah,
time. So I think that'll be sort of a good change. I think for the
it will be
second
interesting
point.
to see how many teams take that opportunity though, because like dive has been so prevalent. Everyone has been playing dive so much
I think we'll see
that
Houston
they might
Outlaws
be
take
like,
advantage of
"Eh,
it.
yeah,
Yeah, because
for sure, they will. They will.
they're definitely a team that although they do play dive and I don't think they play dive horribly, I think they're better
No,
at non-dive
they're just
comps.
better.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
absolutely.
dive isn't bad. It's just they're just so much better with statics.
Exactly. But I guess moving on though from the stage 4 maps and how they're changing the map order, let's look at the standings. So I guess we'll start with the stage 3 standings themselves. So we have Boston at the top, Los Angeles Valiant in second place, New York Excelsior in third place, San Francisco Shock in fourth place, and then Los Angeles Gladiators in fifth place, and that is where the stage playoff cutoff or stage playoffs cutoff is. So unfortunate for Gladiators, but they still do technically have a chance. So we're gonna get into that a bit later. But what do you think of these stage standings, Marty boy?
I like them. Less Koreans. Like looking back at stage one, where it was like NYXL on the top, London Spitfire on the top, like stage two,
Outlaws was in
NYXL,
second.
London Spitfire, Seoul number four. Also in stage one, Seoul was number five, but okay. Stage three, now they're finally being pushed back,
Mhm.
which makes me happy.
Yeah,
But
no.
if you then go back to the league standing, you know, does Koreans still play good? They might be pushed down finally, but in the stage standings, they're still number one, number three, and number four.
Yeah. I think it is good to see in the stage standings at least that other teams are performing
Yeah.
better now in this stage, and it's not just the Korean teams performing better. And actually, some of the Korean teams are falling off in this stage. I mean, London Spitfires in 9th place, Seoul Dynasty, who a lot of people still might, at least originally thought was going to be one of the best teams, is now in 6th place for this stage. Even
Yes.
New York Excelsior is in 3rd place. Yes, that's really high, but that's 3rd place for this stage. So I think it's good overall for the league to see that it's not just Koreans dominating anymore.
Yeah.
Which is great.
No, that's good.
Yeah, but as you pointed out, I guess looking at the league standings themselves, Excelsior still is at the top. London Spitfire is still in 3rd. Seoul Dynasty is still in 4th.
I'm happy in a way though. Like since Seoul and Spitfire both haven't been playing so great recently and have lost some really key matches, for example, Seoul versus Boston. It's really like nice to see Boston like wiggling its way in there. And like Valiant isn't far behind. They're one game behind of being equal to number 3 and 4.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
that's really good to see. The same with Philly Fusion. So the matches between those teams in the coming weeks are going to be very, very intense for like the league standings.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think
And YXL is still casually with 5 games ahead of everyone, but hey,
but
that's
I mean,
NYXL.
they're just such a good team, right? I mean, they've only
Yeah.
lost 3 times the entire season. I mean,
Basically.
they're just they're a fan. I mean, the second lowest loss in the league is 8.
Yeah.
That's a 5 loss difference, and that's not huge. But when you look at where that 5 loss is, it's not like 20 to 25 or like 10 to 15 or 5 to 10. It's 3 to 8. Like it's so.
It are already few losses. Yeah.
Yeah, it's insane. But again, I guess Boston's also doing fantastic as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, moving on from the league standings and whatnot. If we look at the next thing that we want to talk about, which is sort of like who has the probability, the statistics for the stage finals, and then the number 1 seed probabilities as well. And there's a lot more here, but these are the main ones that we're going to talk about today. So Boston Uprising, 97.54%. Los Angeles Valiant, 93.55%. New York Excelsior, 91.94%. And then San Francisco Shock with a 42.17%.
I believe in them, though. I believe in my Shock.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to shock the world. Unintended.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, Shock's obviously been doing great, but and I think that they have a great chance of getting to the playoffs. I don't know if they have a great chance of winning though. I mean, they have on this statistically, they have a 1.34% chance of winning.
Oh yeah, the number 1 seed is quotation mark guaranteed to be Boston. Like unless they suddenly start losing many matches, like they've won their matches against like the big enemies already. So like their upcoming matches are basically quite easy to say, or like relatively easy. So they have Shanghai Dragons to play, they have Fuel to play, and then in the next stage or in the next week, where are they? They still have Valiant, which is one big match. Gladiators, LA Gladiators, reasonable match. But like those are the only 2 semi-challenging matches they have to go. So it's very likely that they will just continue winning from here.
Yeah, no, Boston. I mean, to talk about Boston a bit more, they have not lost a single match this stage. They are doing absolutely flawless. And not only have they not lost a single match, they've played against some tough opponents. They played against New York Excelsior and won against New York Excelsior right after losing a player. I mean, they're just performing amazingly. Yeah, I don't know. Boston's just absolutely fantastic. I think they're a bit similar to Outlaws as well from stage one. They're sort of just like constantly getting better and better and better, which is absolutely great for them. And I think Boston's a fantastic team, and I would love to see them win. I mean, if they win the entire stage in the playoffs, in the finals, I would be okay with that. Yeah, no, that'd be
I
really good.
think Boston's also getting very close to having won versus every single team once at least.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know it from the top of my head who they still need to win against, but I think like they've been doing very well.
Yeah.
Like there's also an interview with Striker. Like Striker has stepped up his game.
Oh, Striker's been playing absolutely fantastically.
Yeah.
Like he's, I mean, just flawless. I mean, he's probably one of the best tracers in the league now. Like he's doing just
for sure.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. I mean, I believe it was I think it was Striker at least. It was that scene when I don't remember who they beat, but they beat a team, and like I think it was Striker was like basically like tearing up.
Yeah, he was crying. Yeah,
he was tearing up on stage because he just did so much.
He just carried the shit out of them.
So much. He just played so well, and like after that game, it's really, at least for me, when I watch like the league, the Overwatch League, it gets me emotional because it's like these wins really mean so much to these players, you know?
Yeah. No, that's great to see.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely great. I love to see players really wanting these wins and working for these wins, and when they get those wins, it's an emotional experience, obviously. I guess moving on as well. So New York Excelsior, they're not playing as well as they have been. Now, I know that some people think that this might be intentional, that they're trying to not burn themselves out, but is it maybe a little bit of teams just getting better too? I mean, if we look at the week 3 games, I mean, New York, I mean, they 3-2'd, so they won, but they 3-2'd everything.
Like the last 4 matches have been 3-2s.
Yeah, and like, is that New York playing worse, or is it other teams playing better? You know.
If we're looking at New York's like history, this stage, like at the start of this stage, they 4-0'd versus Florida Mayhem, expected, but then they 4-0'd London Spitfire. That's in week 1. But then later on, when they like start playing against relatively less good opponents, they started 3-2 a lot. So Boston Uprising 3-2. This was like the start of the rise of Boston Uprising. So this is like a acceptable score still.
Yeah.
But then Outlaws, they still 3-2 again, close matches.
It was really close with Outlaws too.
Yeah, it was very, very close.
Almost took it.
The week 3, Philly was 2-0 ahead. It was a reverse sweep from NYXL. A repeated reverse sweep, sadly enough, for Philly. But like, again, they're really risking it on that 3rd game, and then they have that comeback.
And they do come back. I mean,
they do come back, of course.
Fame, I guess. They're doing well. I mean, they are still winning their matches. Yeah. They still only have lost 3 entire matches, but they're losing more games than they used to be losing, you know? Which which is
also Gladiators, another 3-2, another close set of games.
Yeah. You know what I think? Okay. I would say I think that the other teams are getting better. I think it's a bit of both. I think New York Excelsior, I think that they are definitely trying not to burn themselves out because they've already guaranteed their spots in the playoff. They've guaranteed their spots in the playoff. So I think they're trying not
basically
to burn themselves out.
Guaranteed anything for them at this point. Like it's a 5-game difference with the number 2. It's such a big difference.
Yeah,
like they can drop so many matches, and like there are certain teams that are quotation mark free wins for them. That like even if they drop like versus their big opponents to matches, they still can easily end up first seed.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that New York, they know that they're in the lead and they just don't want to
Yeah.
burn themselves out. But the caveat to that, the other side, I do think other teams are just getting better. I think
No,
that,
for
yeah,
sure.
I think these other teams, I don't think that New York was also expecting these games to be as hard as they were, and they were hard. I mean, they had to work for it, definitely. But I guess moving
Yeah.
away from New York for a bit, so Effect from the Dallas Fuel is in Korea. He went to Korea for some reason. As far as I'm aware, he has not really put out an exact reason as to why he's in Korea. Because when he's in Korea, he's not scrimming, he's not playing, he's not in the league. I mean, what do you think, Marty boy? I think that you had a bit of a harsh opinion when we were talking about this a bit ago.
Well, it's not really a harsh opinion. It's just based upon what we've heard from Monty during the, how they call it, the watch point.
Yeah.
One big fat burnout, basically. Like, there's so much pressure on Effect.
Oh yeah.
He's basically been forced, and like also forced himself because he's such a competitive player, to carry the Dallas Fuel through all their hardship and all the things that have been against them.
And they still
He's been
lose.
trying to keep them up there, giving them the best chance. So it's very understandable that he's getting burned out. But it was also mentioned, you got to keep in mind, he isn't the only one. There are more players that are feeling burned out about the league. And Monty was very hard in this, and I do agree with him. It's not going to get easier. Like, you're now a professional Overwatch player for like a big international league and a big organization. It's basically a very, very high hour demanding job. And I don't think that everyone was ready to do that.
Yeah,
Not
no,
everyone was ready there
I believe it was
to
Monty.
go into that schedule.
Yeah, I believe it was Monty who also said like he kind of understands why they might be getting burnt out, but he, as you were saying, it's only going to get harder from here. I believe Monty said they just need to suck it up.
Yeah,
And I agree with that. I think that you are a professional player in a sports league right now, in an
yeah.
esports league right now. You need to suck it up. Like, this is your job now. This is your job, and you need to
There's
just do it. You just need to do it. You need to
Yeah, they
realize
really
that.
need to have a slight attitude change here.
Yeah, they,
But
they, they definitely do. And I get that they're getting burnt out, but they if they're getting burnt out, there has to be a reason for that. It's either they're not Overwatch League material. That's one potential. I hope that's not the reason. I don't think that
I don't
any.
think
Yeah.
there's like a real baseline at the moment of anyone that's really Overwatch League material.
Yeah,
Because
no, yeah, no, definitely. I don't think that any player is not Overwatch League material because I mean it just started obviously, so we don't know all the details
yeah,
and things like that. But I think another potential reason is like, what's your schedule like, and not your team schedule, because I'm sure that the team schedule is fine for these players. I'm sure that they're not. At least I would hope so. Okay, I really hope that the teams are not just like putting these players on like 20-hour schedules or something like every single
no,
day.
no, no, of
And I
course
doubt
not.
that, yeah, because this is their job and they don't want the like as a team owner, you don't want your players to burn out. You want your players to be able to play for you for a very long time. It's a sports league, you know?
Yeah,
So I think that if you're burning out so fast, it's probably something to do with you, like as an individual, and I think that you need to work on that. Like if Effect is getting burnt out, and to be fair, Effect is basically carrying us. Like he's playing so well, he's trying so hard every single game, but
yeah, no, for sure.
and like that could kind of burn you out potentially, but I don't think that's the only reason. I almost feel like Effect might be burning out. Maybe his personal life, or like something, there's an issue there with like his schedule or something like that. And if that's the case, he needs to work on that and he needs to fix that. And hopefully when he gets back from Korea, it's fixed. But yeah, I agree with Monty. I think these players need to suck it up because it's only going to get harder.
Yeah,
You're going to be flying constantly. You're going to be going to different locations. Yeah, you just you're a professional now. This is your job. You know, this is what you signed up for when you signed that dotted line on the contract for Overwatch. But yeah, I guess another interesting point that we for like some of the teams is Seoul is kind of getting worse. They haven't really been playing as well as they as they were before. You know. They're just
Yeah,
kind of
like we
dropping
were
off.
previously talking about how they were basically just sandbagging parts of the games, and they were really in that it's a marathon, not a sprint attitude.
Hmm.
But then their crucial game against Boston, where they basically had to fight for their third position, or like for their second position or third position in the overall standings, they 2-1 that. They lose it. It's like your one most important match of like this stage, and they lose it. They fuck it up,
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, no, Seoul is
which is
just
interesting.
yeah, Seoul is just every time I watch them, I feel like something's wrong, and I almost think it's the way that they're building their rosters for different maps. Like they're constantly swapping off like some of their key players, like Ryu Jaehong or Toby, or sometimes they don't even play either of them. Or sometimes they'll like put Toby in instead of like Gambler when they need a Mercy player, and Toby's not. Honestly, Toby's not that great of a Mercy player. Like I hate to say it, Toby, but you're not. Gambler's a much better Mercy player. So when you have a Mercy centric map, you should put Gambler in, not Toby. It seems like something's just very. They're not playing like they were in stage one, you know, or even stage two. Like they're just constantly been falling off. But hopefully they get better. I like Seoul. But I guess moving on. So Shanghai Dragons, I guess a better story. They're still losing. Still haven't won a match. But
Going up.
they're getting better.
Believe in them.
Every game I watch them, it seems like they're improving something about their game, and I'm really hoping that they get their win soon.
I believe next stage they're gonna do it.
Mhm.
Only because, like we talked before, it's more static favored maps,
Yeah.
equaling more Zarya play, and who is a very good Zarya.
Gaguri.
I think you're right. So I really hope Gaguri is just gonna carry the fuck out of them, basically, on with their Zarya play.
Yeah.
I really hope that's gonna be nice.
Absolutely. And then last one for the players and the team, the IDDQD. So he's scrimming with the Shock again. I know this is something that you
It's
want
gonna
to
be back.
Yeah, it's something you want to talk about, Marty Boy. What do you think of this?
I felt bad for him. I like, for the people that don't know it, at the start of Overwatch League, he was sick for a bit, so he couldn't scrim with the team because, like, when you're sick in like a team house and with such a competitive team, it starts off such an important league. You get put in quarantine, and you're never gonna touch them again until you're 100% healthy, right? So he wasn't scrimming in any way with them, and then he got like in a bit of a low with his own play and wasn't really happy with it. So he's been practicing that a lot on his own, and now on stream he finally announced he's gonna start scrimming again with the Shock. And I really think, like, previously he was still one of the best players, and he really can be great again. I believe in it.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited to see Shock. I think Shock's been improving a lot, and I guess to
Yeah,
mention
for
Shock
sure.
a bit too. So Shock beat Philadelphia last week. Philadelphia Fusion. So that was I'd say that
Yeah,
was a bit of a mix-up. Like I
it was a 3-1. It wasn't even a 3-2.
yeah,
They
no,
just couldn't even take it to a map 5.
yeah, I know Shock is just playing extremely
Shock just
well.
did it. They were
Yeah.
like, "Well, Philly, you're good." You
We're
think?
better, yeah, no,
Yeah,
absolutely.
basically.
Also, Spitfire, I guess they stepped up against the Valiant last week as well, so they were able to beat the Valiant, which is pretty good. And then the LA versus LA game, that was also a very good match.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, so Valiant
Beautiful.
was able to win that one
Valiant
against the
wings
Gladiators.
out. Let's go.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But yeah, I think that's about all that we want to talk about the last week Overwatch League and just Overwatch League in general. But now, so on to our stage 3 week 4 predictions.
Yes.
So let me pull that up for everyone to see our predictions here. I think we agreed on a decent amount of them, but not all of them. So first up, we have today Shanghai Dragons versus the Boston Uprising. I mean, Shanghai Dragons. Unfortunately, this is not going to be your win. If you do
Good
win,
meme.
I was gonna say, Shanghai.
Proud of you.
If you do win this game,
You're the best.
Yeah, you're the best. I'll be happy for you, but I don't think you're gonna win this one. Houston Outlaws versus Los Angeles Valiant. We both like Outlaws. We're always rooting for Outlaws. I do think
To be fair,
gonna be
if I
close.
was purely statistically looking, I would be saying Valiant. But then my heart comes into it, and I'm a Outlaws fan, so then Outlaws comes up. But
Yeah.
like that's gonna be a 3-2 match, guaranteed.
Yeah, no, I agree
That's
with
gonna
you.
be a hard-fought battle.
Yeah, I completely agree with you for both those. So
But then, where we disagree,
Dallas Fuel versus Mayhem. So you said Dallas Fuel, and I said Mayhem. I guess I'll give mine first because mine's probably the unpopular one. So I think Mayhem, because Mayhem has been improving a lot. They've been playing exceptionally well, and also Fuel just lost effect. They don't have effect now. And I think that's going to be I think that's a huge loss for Fuel because Effect was probably, if not their best player.
It's gonna be harsh for Dallas. Mickey, or not Mickey, Seagull is gonna be their tracer player. So from a projectile DPS, playing primarily Pharah, some Genji, and some
That's horrible though. I don't think so.
and some Junkrat, he is forced to play Diva. Then they get rid of Rascal, so he's forced to play Genji again. And now Effect is away, so now he needs to learn Tracer.
This is exactly what I'm talking about. Like, they keep swapping all of these players for different roles, and it's not good for a team to constantly be doing that. I mean, to be fair, I mean, like, my team, obviously it's not as good as the Overwatch League teams, but my team on Atreo, we had sort of this issue as well at one point. We swapped our off tank to main tank because he had been wanting to do main tank. We haven't swapped back since though for a long time because it's like, okay, you're main tank now, we're not swapping anymore, because that's what we decided on. And Dallas Fuel just hasn't decided on this. I mean, Seagull on Tracer, really Marty boy, you think he can beat the Florida Mayhem if they put Seagull on Tracer?
I know. But I still do believe that Dallas is still a slightly better team.
Okay.
I have no clue how they're gonna do it, but I believe they are gonna do it somehow. They're just gonna magically be like, poof, here's the win, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Don't know who's gonna carry. Maybe OG just comes in like, hey, I can play Winston. Yeah. I don't know, but yeah.
I could definitely see Dallas Fuel winning. But moving on to Thursday, April 26th, so we have Los Angeles Gladiators versus London Spitfire. We both think Gladiators are going to win. I think London they've just been sort of falling down and been playing as well as they were. They won stage 1. After that, they kind of just were like, we're just going to lose all of our games now.
We've got the money already. What else do we need?
Exactly. Next one on Thursday, New York Excelsior versus San Francisco Shock. Now, you did San Francisco Shock here?
Mm-hmm.
Is this more of a heart thing again?
Slightly. I believe in Shock. And I think they're one of the teams that actually can pull it off.
Okay.
Like, they've been playing so good recently. I really do believe this can be one of their moments. I will admit, yes, this is, statistically speaking, NYXL is favored. But they've also been having a slightly harder time and playing less good, so who knows?
Yeah, that's fair.
Right? Who knows?
I could definitely see Shock winning. I don't think I need to defend the Excelsior, though. I think we all know that they are most likely going to win this. But I would love to see Shock win. I always love to see Excelsior fall. That's always a happy moment for me. Next match up on the 26th is Philadelphia Fusion versus Seoul Dynasty. We both picked the Fusion. I think Fusion's just a better team right now. As we were talking about earlier in the podcast, Seoul is just been falling down. They just haven't been performing as well recently, just sort of like the London Spitfire. They've just been falling off. And Philly has just been playing exceptionally well. They lost to New York, obviously, but they also played extremely well against New York. So I think
this match also has for the league standing some nice implications, because if Philly wins, that means they will be on equal points to Seoul. They have a much worse map differential. Currently, Seoul is at the plus 19 map differential, and Philly is only at a plus 8. So they won't be close enough to overtake Seoul already, but they will be even. So then every match starts to count for Seoul. So that's going to be the moment where we see if Seoul really, really wants to keep that 4th position much more than that second position they had.
Exactly. Yeah. So I definitely want Seoul to win. So I like Seoul more than Philly, but I think Philly
Yeah,
is probably going to win. So
most
moving
likely.
on to Friday, April 27th, we have Boston Uprising
Yeah,
versus the Dallas Fuel. Boston Uprising just a
been doing
much
great. So yeah,
just a much better team than Dallas. I would love to see Dallas win, but even especially with Effect out of the way, Boston is just so much better than Dallas. Next one we have
yeah,
Houston Outlaws versus Los Angeles Gladiators. We both love the Outlaws. We're both going for the Outlaws. I will say though,
always.
I think it's going to be a very hard game, and I do think that if Gladiators won, I would not be entirely surprised. The Gladiators is a fantastic team.
They are doing very good, but I think this is one is like another nice 3-2 match, but like more favor to Outlaws. Like even realistically speaking,
Yeah, no, I agree.
without Heart, Outlaws is probably more favored.
I agree with you. I agree with you. Moving on, so we have Los Angeles Valiant versus Florida Mayhem. We both think Los Angeles Valiant. I think Florida Mayhem, there's not too many matches where I would say that they would win. They're
Yeah,
sort of like the Shanghai, where they're just not, they're not the best team in the league. And Valiant is one of the best teams. Like, they're a really good team. So yeah, Valiant definitely. Next one, so Saturday, April 28th, we have London Spitfire versus San Francisco Shock. Now, you picked Shock, I picked London Spitfire. I guess I'll let you.
continuing my same trend of yes, I believe in like based on the previous things they have done, the Shock in the last few weeks. Yes, if they don't take NYXL, unless this is purely a preparation thing, because like these are two big opponents for them, so that's gonna be a slight problem possibly for them. But if they don't take NYXL, I do really believe they can easily, or not easily, they can take London Spitfire.
Mhm. Yeah, I guess that I know that I was talking about London Spitfire still like getting worse and worse and worse, and I think that's still true here. But I do think that London Spitfire, I think that they're still a bit of a. I think they have more mechanics than San Francisco Shot. I think their mechanical skill is still a bit better there, so I think that that's going to pull them through
True.
in this match. So next match is Seoul Dynasty versus Excelsior. We both think Excelsior is going to win. Again, not much explaining there. I don't think Excelsior just a fantastic team in Seoul Dynasty been falling off. I think it'll
Yeah.
be. I think Seoul will at least get one map off of Excelsior, maybe two if they're lucky. But I think Excelsior will win in the end. And then the last match for Week 4, Stage 3 is Philadelphia Fusion versus Shanghai Dragons. And can I just say, poor Shanghai Dragons. Obviously, we both accepted that Fusion is going to win. Poor Shanghai Dragons. They have to
Yeah.
play Boston the first day, and then the very last day they have to play Philly Fusion. They literally have to play two of the best teams in the league. That just feels bad. I mean, that's just unlucky.
It's a slight unlucky for them, yeah. But
Mhm.
hey, you will face the better opponents.
They'll have good
And
VOD
even
reviews.
better opponents.
They will have
So
good VOD reviews to watch for when they
yeah,
inevitably lose, and hopefully they win. I think we both want them to win, but
one day,
one
I
day,
believe.
one day,
Stage 4.
yeah, definitely. But well, I think that's the end of the Atreo podcast. We hope you all enjoyed this week's Atreo podcast, and we'll see you guys next week.
Thank you all for watching. Bye.